Hello viewers, recently we witnessed one of the craziest race finishes I've seen in a very long time. This is Daytona and it's the Mazda MX-5 Cup. As you can see, extremely close pack racing, really unpredictable, and this is what the finish looks like. As they run up to the line, you can see it's extremely close between not just 2 or 3 cars, but about 10 of them. And what was crazy about this race was you see this guy who goes through the chicane in first place right there. Just before the finish, as you can see, he gets completely swarmed by the rest of the pack and ends up finishing in 11th position. But what's that got to do with Gran Turismo? Well, this week's Daily Race A is this exact combination, Mazda MX-5 Cup cars around Daytona. Let's do it. Okay, race number 1. I've jumped into my Lightning McQueen liveried Mazda MX-5. Let's work this out, see how this race plays out, and try to move forward. I'm starting at the back of the pack. 12th out of 12, only 3 laps to try to, say, do some damage, but what I really mean is move forward some positions cleanly. This guy going for a nice little trip into the grass, and it's only been 5 seconds, getting reset back in time. Bit of carnage here between the German and the Italian as they strike each other through the hairpin, through the horseshoe. We're going to move up a couple of positions. Now this race, the Mazda MX-5 do come up a fair amount of time on this game, on the multiplayer, and they always produce very close racing. I don't recall it being a race around Daytona in at least recent memory, and therefore with the extremely long oval banked section before the straight, or before the start-finish line, this would always result in some very close racing, as this video is about to prove. Now this guy, not sure where he's turning, left then right then left again, and you can see there my reaction to that as I move up into 7th position. Now I was hoping that we could work together with some of my opposition here, but this guy going for the lunge into the bus stop, so I'm going to have to wait behind for the time being. Only 3 laps to try to catch up to the pack, and if you're not in the slipstream then it becomes incredibly difficult because everyone else is going to be working together. And you would have seen that in the intro, just how close everyone gets. You really do have to make the most of the draft from the other cars, otherwise you're going backwards in the race pretty quickly. Just like the Italian now is behind me. Moving a little bit further forwards, catching right up to the back of P6. 6th position is on the cards here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what we can do about going about trying to get it. Now into this one, I didn't really have to do too much. Just turn in a little bit later. Nip underneath on the way out, and that was that. Up into P6, bit of contact, but we're okay. And a bit of a gap in front to try to catch up. It wouldn't be long though, as we come into the horseshoe once again, and there was a bit of contact between a couple of the cars there. And therefore we could definitely get into a top 5 position now, as we're right up behind the German into the infield. For the 3rd and final time, quite a short and swift race, as it normally is in Daily Race A. Looking up the inside, not quite going to go for it there. You do have to be very tactical with your decision making in this type of race, as yes, you can send it for the position, but sometimes it's best just to wait for the straight in the efforts to save some time overall. As once again the German not getting the best exit here, so we're just going to nip underneath once more and move up into P5. And there is going to be one more overtake because the Spaniard in front gets it all manner of wrong into the bus stop, and that's going to quite easily give me the position here. However, once again, as we saw in the intro, being in a certain position never guarantees you finishing there up to the finish line, because as you can see here, the 2 cars behind working together in the slipstream is going to get incredibly close as we come up to the finish. Thankfully I was far away enough. They did catch up quite significantly. That was a P4. Right, we're going to go again, and this time starting 8th. We need a bit more luck, I think, to get towards the front pack. In a short race like this, you need a bit of luck, really. You need the cars at the front to start fighting. You need to really carve your way through extremely quickly, like a hot knife through butter. Yes, I used that line. Anyway, heading into this corner. The name of it, I don't know. It evades my mind right now. but it's a corner, so I got that much right. And then into this next corner, you see the Brit there going quite deep. Can we go for the old switcheroo? It is gonna eventually work. So that move, really one of my favourites, my favourable move on the exit there, getting the old switcheroo. So Crofty loving me right now as he goes wild in the commentary box as ever. So P6 here, end of lap 1. We've gained 2 positions. That's a solid return so far. 2.9 seconds off the lead. But let's start bump drafting on the main straight here. We can watch that gap slowly come down to now 2.4, 2.3. Kind of shows you just how important drafting is in this race. It can save you tenths, if not seconds per lap if you get it right. Double overtake here, 3 abreast into turn 1. Not advisable, as you'll see later on. But that was actually a decent move. And luckily we all gave each other space. And we continue with the race. So now up into 4th, half the race remaining. Is there a chance here of getting into that top 2? We can see them not far away. This is going to require some element of teamwork between myself and Black Ninja 6 as we head into the corner, which again evades my memory as to which one it is. But it's on Daytona. It's one of the infield corners. It's a right-hander. That's about as much as I can say. Anyway, I'm talking gibberish here. Onto the back straight once again. We're going to have to try to updraft this guy. I couldn't really find a way through. It was always going to be difficult to overtake him and then stop catching up with the top 2 alone. You have to work together, otherwise it's impossible. So here we go then, into the bus stop once more. This is so easy to get wrong, especially this week. This car using the sports hard tyre, meaning a distinct lack of grip, especially on the rear end when you're trying to accelerate. And here I went for this move and proceeded to watch this guy slide sideways into barrier, into the tyre wall. And there was my reaction. You see, absolutely mortified by that. It really, really struck me. That really affected me badly, that did. But eventually finishing P3 in that race. And in order to get towards the front, I do think that this race isn't quite long enough, so we're going to have to qualify. So braking zone for turn 1. As you see, this line on the middle of the track, it's the last line that appears, and that's pretty much a good braking zone. Release the brake, really let the car flow through the corner, then you're fighting the rear end. As we just mentioned, the tyre's not the greatest, so you're kind of fighting the rear end on acceleration for a lot of the lap. Now I go quite deep here, that's not really the optimal line, but we can kind of square the corner off, get on the power nicely, and not really have to fight the rear end on that occasion actually. Fast sweeping left, this one can be taken flat out. Then you're looking for the runoff on the left hand side. There's a big of a darker tarmac line, and you're braking just after that. Head into the apex, off for the brake, let the car rotate, back on the power, minimise the travel distance through that corner. Back over to the right hand side, braking just on the beginning of that runoff on the right hand side. And that kind of sees you into this one. Really accelerate quite early and just steer as sharp to the left as you can possibly do without oversteering the car. As we then head into the bus stop, braking 3, 2, and then halfway between 2 and 1. That should see you into this one. Keep 2 wheels on the curb and then power out. Again, the rear end is going to want to escape and spin you around. But that was an okay lap there. There was definitely room for improvement. Could have been a low 204 with some subtle refinements, but it's a 204.6. And for race 3, that puts me 3rd position on the grid. As you can see here, we've got Heaton 93 back at the front, the 203.7, pretty quick lap. And Just Bob 76, the formidable opponents here at the front of the pack. And therefore, this is not going to be an easy race. This, I think, is going to replicate, or closer replicate, the type of racing we saw in the intro. Let's not forget this is Daily Race A. It doesn't always populate with world-class drivers, and so it does spread out sometimes quite quickly. However, These two guys here setting very good lap times, and so it's going to be quite tricky to keep up with them. I think it will be quite close between the three of us, as it is at this moment in time. Nose to tail here, we have already gapped the Italian there in 4th place. And so it's really very much a 3-car battle here for the race win. Heading into the bus stop. Now this is where things get quite interesting and quite tactical, as we're going to go for the bump draft here on Bob. And quite interestingly, he opts to go to the right hand side and actually go for the overtake. And I'm also going to go for the overtake. It's not ideal to go into this bus stop that narrow and sort of 3 or 2 abreast. However, I was aware that Heaton was on pole by quite a margin, so I thought, you know what, let's demote him as much as possible. Let's put the strongest driver towards the back. And so that's what we did. Up into 2nd, Just Bob up into 1st. Heaton now down to 3rd. With Just Bob in front, we're going to get the slipstream here. This is going to be really close. I mean, this isn't the finish. But if that was the finish right there, I would have lost the race by a 1/5 of a tenth, if that makes sense. 0.02 roughly. Kind of shows you the very extreme margins here at Daytona, with the slipstream availability on the back straight, or the main straight. They're trying to go a little bit defensive here, get into that apex a bit nicer than we did on our qualifying lap. And very much from here to the end, it's about tactical decision making. When do I head to the front? Obviously, you want to be at the front. That is kind of part and parcel with racing and motorsport. We all know that. But there is a matter of timing and getting it right. And these MX-5 races are very much about that. That is a huge aspect of trying to get it right, because it's not always to preserve your position like it is in other series. So here, I opt to go for the move. Let's get it done then into the bus stop. And we still got a fair chunk of the race to go, so this is not going to be easy to hold it from here to the end. Not the best line through the bus stop, it must be said. And that invites the two of them behind to be right on my tail, as you can see. So this is going to be quite interesting as we head into turn 1 at the beginning of the final lap. This is not going to be easy to hold them back, given the slipstream prowess. And now that, of course, I'm at the front, I don't have any. So let's stick fully to the left-hand side. We can defend our position for the time being and try to keep the pair of them at bay. As the crowd, look at that, building up the anticipation here. The crowd really, a sellout crowd here at Daytona to watch Super GT do some MX-5s. It really is quite heartwarming to see that. So thank you to everyone who turned up. It really is quite brilliant to see a full house here at Daytona. 2 cars behind, side by side. I'm not sure what happens here, but Heaton continues turning left and he's off in the grass. He's sent spinning into a spiral and dropping a huge number of positions. So now it's just between myself and Just Bob 76 for the race win. I mean, the crowd can barely contain their excitement at who is going to win this one. It is going to be extremely close between the pair of us. I'm trying to break away here. It's not quite working. I am 5/10 or half a second in front. Trying to break the toe as we move to the outside line. Tried to break the toe once again, and I realised this actually isn't the best place to be. You should actually be low wherever possible on the oval. Into the final bus stop of the race. I'm going to just try to slow down slightly to minimise the gap between myself and Just Bob. However, I think he may have timed this one perfectly. Let's see how this one plays out. Only one straight remaining, and by straight I mean a massive curve as we head towards the finish. I'm going to try and break the toe once again. There's nothing I can really do to try to prevent him getting that slipstream. He's got it. He's going to pull out to the right hand side, and as we head to the finish line, I knew my fate was sealed and I was going to finish in second. So quite a disappointment to lose it so late in the race, but fair play to Just Bob 76. We turn up once again for race number 4. Now this one is hopefully redemption. Race 4, I'm in P4. Luna had set a better time, and so there was even more competition here at the front of the pack. And this would prove to be even more difficult a race to try to secure that race win. So always a bit of a nightmare there to secure a second place when you're in first going into the bus stop, but we saw that in the intro. There was a guy who, in the real life race, went into the bus stop in the lead and then got drafted by everyone and finished 11th. I mean, that is pretty savage. Just shows you the value of positioning, basically, and not going too soon. You want to time it dead right. Sometimes it's better to be behind coming through this very bus stop on that final lap. So let's see how this one plays out. Still quite a tactical battle here. We're going to updraft Just Bob. Going to try to close that gap once again. Make sure that we don't lose ground to that top two as we head to the braking zone of turn 1. Just trying to spot that final line on the circuit, which is about there. This opens up and we get a sight line reference. Very close driving between the top three there. Really, really good to see. The Mazda MX-5 is always producing some special magic and close racing. It's no wonder, it's little wonder that Daytona is fully sold out for this. To watch Super GT go for, well, a second place last time out, but this time hopefully that race win, and obviously the crowd will go absolutely ballistic should that happen. So heading down then into No Name Corner. I mean, it has a name, just I don't know it. So it's probably just called Turn 6 or something, isn't it? Something really boring like that. Anyway, heading out of Turn 6 into this left, braking at the end of that runoff on the right hand side. And look how close this is. Nothing to separate the four of us. In fact, well, 0.7 of a second. That's not exactly nothing, is it? It is a gap, but we are effectively nose to tail here. And this is where things are about to change. Heading into the bus stop, just look at the gap between ourselves and 5th place. It really is a 4-car race here at the front, and everyone else is fighting for 5th at best. This is where Bob goes for the move. Always a risky move into the bus stop. Brakes a little bit too late. Hits Luna there in the Grello liveried MX-5. So Kevin Estra tuning in here for a race or two on Daytona. So we've gained a position there. We're about to gain another one, courtesy of nipping in behind Heaton here in the Donut Media car. So we move up into second. This is kind of good timing and good positioning. So we can just try to bump draft him here. I don't need to overtake him at this moment. We can just remain in position for the time being. With Kevin Estra just behind, this is not an ideal scenario given the prowess of Sir Kevin. Into turn 1, releasing that brake. Let's get back on the power as early as we can. Just really learning as these races go on how to nurse the power back onto this car on corner exit. Looking up the inside here, more as a defensive measure rather than an offensive one. I wasn't really trying to get the position, just more to secure my second. Once again, a bit of a moment there from Heaton. But as these races go on, you learn just to apply the power in just a slightly more gentle manner, and that tends to just minimise the effect of oversteer on the way out of the turn. Going a little bit deep here, going around the outside, not really, again, looking for the overtake, just trying to stay as far ahead of Kevin Estra there behind as possible. But this is heating up now, with Heaton still in the lead. As we enter the last couple of straights of the race. Seems like I've timed this fairly well, as Luna or Kevin Estra behind, making the mistake in the Grello car and dropping off. So a 4-car race has now turned into a 2-car race, and the decision is, where do we go for this move? How do we time it? What decision do we make? This is going to have the bearing on where this result goes. Is it going to go to myself, or is it going to go to Heaton? I'm going to wait. I'm going to play it behind. Just wait for this gap. You have to get this gap dead right. And about there, I think that's a good gap. 0.3, 0.4. And now it's a simple case of tucking into the slipstream and letting aerodynamics and letting physics do its thing. As we now, slowly but surely, gain on the back of Heaton 93, or underscore 93. He's got no chance. As physics are on our side, we're going to pull to the outside, and you can see by my reaction, it was a magical moment. The crowd goes wild as finally we get the race win. There it is, P1. Get in there, Lewis. Miracles do happen, mate. Alright, that is win number 153 on this account. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.